Hi, everyone. I'm Adam Helfgott, founder, CEO of MadHive. MadHive is an enterprise software platform. We power OTT offerings for some of the biggest names in media. Our customers include broadcasters that use our full stack, as well as mid and all sorts of agencies. And we really think of ourselves as a software company in ad tech. Before I founded MadHive, I was a serial entrepreneur. I built companies in all sorts of verticals, from like fashion to summer camps, things like that. I just really love building things and getting to know an industry and the people in it really well. So today we're here to talk about the future of OTT. What it will look like. And MadHive and the audience here is really focused on local from many different points of view. So I know we've all seen lots and lots of graphs of what's happening, especially with COVID, and that cord cutting is happening very, very quickly. And and what does that mean for people that have been traditionally buying linear? What does that mean for basically everything? The landscape is changing, consumers are moving. So how do we keep servicing our customers? So it's a really interesting time. I personally feel like there's been like 3 to 4 years of what would have normally happened, time passing, and now it's all been compressed in the past 9 months. So OTT now is even a bigger opportunity from where people thought it was going to be. It's actually happening right now. So really, how do we not let what happened in banner ads and other digital formats kind of happen in television? And that's something we think about a lot as well, because premium content is premium content, but a lot of the business models of programmatic and whatnot, think about it a little bit differently. So anyway, I want to introduce the panelists here, and Jim, I'll start with you.
Hey everybody, I'm Jim Wilson. And I am CEO of Talon. Talon is an out-of-home company, technology solutions and agency. I have a common thread in my background of local. I started a company called Premion under the Tegna umbrella, and now Tegna and Gray are partners in that business. So I sort of feel like I hear you say that CTV is happening right now. I ran my first CTV campaign in 2016. So I feel like I'm an old timer in the CTV space, and it's only 4 years ago that happened. Prior to that, also more local, I ran a company called TouchTunes, and have a real love of local, to be honest, and merging the two in the CTV and digital out of home space now in some projects, which we'll talk about.
Cool. Christine.
Hi, I'm Christine Locke with CTV Media, SVP of Sales and Operations. CTV has been in business for 40 years, well before the phrase connected TV was coined. So it is a bit of good luck that that is our name now, as our businesses really began with traditional television, both local and national, helping our agency partners navigate that space. And then we simply followed those viewers as they migrated to that connected TV space, and helping them designing connected TV campaigns that are either in conjunction with their digital or in conjunction with their traditional television.
Cool, thank you. And Henry.
Hi, yes, Henry Embleton, head of ad products and revenue at Crunchyroll. So I think we've got quite a good mix of panelists here. I'm on the publisher side, so we are the largest destination in anime. For those who aren't familiar with anime, it's a Japanese cartoon-like storytelling medium with all sorts of different sort of genres and categories in it. So Crunchyroll has been around since for about 14 years now. So in streaming terms, that's obviously sort of archaic. We were some of the first launch partners on PlayStation and Xbox particularly as well. So we've been in the CTV space a very, very long time, and very aware of it.
Cool, thanks, Henry. Chris, I'll start with you. Your agency is buying CTV on behalf of your clients all the time. What do you think your clients, what are the biggest benefits of OTT, and why is OTT especially powerful?
Well, in the local space, OTT offers huge flexibility versus working with kind of the legacy setup of, say, a broadcast station that covers the entire DMA. For a lot of advertisers, that there's a lot of waste involved in buying a full DMA footprint, or even when working with a cable system in the way their zone or interconnect is designed, there's a lot of waste. So OTT offers you to design the exact geographical coverage that makes sense for that client, eliminating waste and allowing you to buy more impressions in that target geography. And then also that ability to layer in first or third party data to really hone in on the exact audience that you need to reach and impact on that big full screen and full episode player content, and get that impact that you get from traditional television, but in a really more targeted niche environment. And it's really that the best of both digital and traditional television, and fully customized with fantastic branding and completion rate. It's a great opportunity for local clients.
Totally agree. Jim, I know you're over at Talon now, but before that at Premion, who is owned by Tegna and now Gray. During your tenure there, how did the buy side respond to these offerings? I know it's probably a similar answer to Christine, but what's your point of view?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was some initial concern about scale in the market. I remember, we ran our first campaign like I said, in 2016. And, we would go out and we would talk to a number of our clients, especially at local, and many didn't even understand what CTV was at that point. And no one really understood the magnitude. And as you said, it's kind of really taken off over the last couple of years. And I think initially there was, you had sort of a very fragmented local advertiser market and a very fragmented CTV market with a bunch of channels and services that were emerging. And when at Premion, we pulled it all together. And at the time, we obviously went with the phrase of one-stop shop, and sort of pulling it all together to get scale was really, really important. And so we went from, our first campaign in September of that year with a small auto dealership in Texas to landing Chevy 3 months later for tier 2. And so it was fast. And the buying market, they're very smart. There was a lot of education that needed to go on, and but it was very quick. And as Chris points out, it was very quick to, okay, how do we, from the television side, because I came at it from the television side, how do we take this growing scale? How do we add it to our TV reach? But how do we make it smarter? How do we take audiences? How do we take data? And how do we create outcomes? And so there was an initial sort of scale issue. And once the scale issue was solved, the buying market's very smart and jumped onto the efficiency aspects of it. I will say, obviously, also, look, there were a lot of people mining gold in their hills, and there were a lot of players in the market at the time, all selling the same thing. And, it got very crowded very fast. And at the end of the day, what I would say is that buyers were looking through from, a content or supply path optimization standpoint, or not, what are you selling me more than, everyone's selling the same inventory. So what it came down to is, adding sort of strategy, audiences, outcomes, et cetera, to it, to really make it a more efficient and more effective buy.
Cool, thanks, Jim. That kind of leads me right to my question for you, Henry, is on data activation and other things like that, from first party to third party. How does your organization look at that and provide, ideas and services for the buy side?
So I think, obviously data is the key. There's a saying going around like data is the new oil. And I think that's very much the case because it certainly enables these buys, as you say. Sure, you can do the traditional sort of buys by location or sort of platforms or anything like that. But then obviously you want to sort of, peel the onion a little bit further, don't you? And to use the also buyers example, you're looking for also intenders. So data is a very, very key component for that. And obviously it helps enable the targeting, increases the CPMs, but most of all from our perspective as well, increases the user experience for our users. So they're getting targeted relevant ads, obviously in a sort of timely and sort of, relevant manner. So it's critical.
Got it. And another question too is on measurement. Have you as everything has been kind of growing so fast and we're kind of, and traditional media, digital is not really measured in the same way television is, but there's this kind of hybrid measurement that's coming up. Actually, it's kind of a question to all you guys. What are you seeing in on the demand side and ideas for measuring the outcomes and also traditional measurement of actually did what happened.
Yeah, I think look, there's no unified sort of source of truth at the moment. I still think we're very much in the Wild West and the early nascent days of it. I think, we've had some conversations with buyers and they're saying, so yeah, can you tell us what your sort of, your DAR score is and your DAR measurement? It's like, guys, this is CTV. This is a whole new thing, the way it works, right? So I think the one source of truth that we have is view through rates. So that kind of proves that, the ads was seen, which is obviously a good thing. But then the question is seen by who? And I think, we've those little traps as well with CTV, because it's not like mobile and web where it's one-to-one and you know exactly the user and there's cookies and all those things are going away now. But I think sort of there is definitely sort of a gap or room in the market for some kind of unified measurement standard. And I don't think it'll be the traditional spots and dots or sort of the DAR scores that used to happen on linear TV. So I think there's definitely opportunity for some new unified way. But I think we're living in a very we've got a challenging situation, right? Obviously, we see GDPR has come out, CCPA, this is just the beginning. This trend is only going to continue. So on one hand, you've got the users or the sort of, the consumers saying, I want my data protected. I want a really good user experience. But on the other side, you've got the demand side saying, if I can't measure it, I'm not going to buy it. And so we kind of fall into this sort of, this vacuum where both sides are sort of standing off. So there needs to be some sort of solution that needs to come towards this.
Yeah, I agree. Henry's right on sort of there are certain measurements, view through rates and, reach, unduplicated or deduplicated reach, from television to reach an incremental audience. That's really important to a lot of advertisers. Obviously, frequency. I think we all sort of have seen frequency issues in the market. And assuming that has been getting cleared up as that is a client consumer experience. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the ability to prove out that a consumer sees something and then moves on to an outcome is also just another holy grail.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Christine, how are you seeing the demand for outcome-based buying from that point of view now that as people get more educated on what this medium can do?
Yeah, that really varies depending on what kind of planning or buying group you're talking to. So the digital teams, of course, want to be able to kind of put connected TV in the same box as their digital video and be able to track it in that same way, which just isn't entirely realistic right now. And then you have the more traditional television buyers that it's lumped in with a similar bucket as television, where it's more a top funnel function where it's used more for branding. I think somewhere in between there lies a sweet spot, depending on, what the campaign goal is too. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense for a branding campaign to try to track some kind of outcome because there really isn't a call to action. But it's also a synergy too between, all of these channels. So I also think it's unrealistic to expect, CTV or, a traditional television, like as a standalone. It's like all of these channels together synergize to then convert a consumer. I
totally agree. Yeah, those are the things that float in my head all the time as well is, you got TV that has all these digital features, but TV's TV. It's like a big screen, and it's not really meant for direct conversion, but it definitely helps the conversion of other mediums, and so where's that metric when all these other platforms are on the digital side kind of take the last click attribution, so it's an interesting problem.
I think also there's just one thing to add to that as well is, I think there's kind of sort of the problem sometimes where you have these like linear players in a digital world where you're trying to apply linear solutions to digital realities. And I know obviously addressable is very prevalent in the linear world, but I think the beauty of connected TV and obviously having everything digital and clickable and all these kind of things, you can create new experiences and new ad products and click-throughs and sort of, quizzes and sort of interactivity on those kind of things. So there is a way through this. I don't think it's taking the traditional solutions we've had in linear and applying them here. I think we've got to start looking beyond this.
Yeah, totally agree. I think there's a huge opportunity for like new ad products, as we're going to see in the next couple of years. Jim, so you're in the out-of-home space now. How does that tie into local and OTT? And how do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, this is, I think as Chris says, and maybe you said, this is really about cross-platform buying and selling. This is about activating consumers across different media, TV and, billboards, traditional static billboards offer great reach and awareness and, connected television and digital out of home are much more focused on, delivering the right message to the right customer at the right time. And so, what's, something that we've been focused a lot on is, even when I was at Premion, there was this sort of concept of, how do we look at outcomes for customers? Are we delivering ads that sell more cars at local dealers, and can we see lift? And we thought a lot about, and I certainly have, in a number of roles that I've had, looked at what I call a customer journey. And that is, how do we message customers from in-home to out-of-home and sort of cross-platform in a way that we can drive better outcomes and more efficiency. And that's something that we're thinking about. That those are some products that we're testing right now. Video's very powerful. It's powerful in-home, and it's powerful out of home. Over the last 9 months, there's been a lot of in-home viewing, but there has been a lot of focus on digital out of home screens that are dynamic and on essential pathways that are delivering messages. And connecting those two is a strategy, but it's also part of an overall cross-platform strategy. As we're planning and as our teams are planning, how can we think about reaching consumers and delivering outcomes by using multiple media?
Yeah, the convergence of all these mediums, especially the screens or branding like that are tied to, whether it's a television show or a place, things like that. It's kind of the same audience. If I'll focus now on, Christine, what are 2 or 3 predictions you think, over the next 5 years in this medium in OTT?
Well, I think that it will be a larger percentage of the video budget. Right now it's a pretty small and growing percentage. And as far as viewing, adoption is skyrocketed because of COVID. So there is going to be more and more plenty of impressions to be bought programmatically, and layer in that third-party data. And I see a lot of agencies moving more to that impression-based model versus the legacy GRPs. And then that'll also be another way to be easier to include connected TV with the kind of overall TV campaign and plan, if you will.
Cool, thanks. Henry, how about you? Some predictions?
I think you're going to actually sort of just obviously sort of, Chris mentioned sort of moving from GRP to impression-based buying. I think for the ones who are already at the impression-based buying, I actually see sort of an evolution of the CPM model. I think that'll start to sort of, go on cost per activation or cost per interaction or something like that. There will be some new ad product or sort of new model that will come along that I think will sort of evolve that. And then also as well, I think within that, I mean, obviously, I think we've all seen this through COVID. Just consumption has shifted, and that will only continue to happen. The cords will continue to be cut, and then obviously the dollars will flow, obviously, from that sort of that basis there. So you're going to start to see again less and less dollars in traditional linear TV, which is, I mean, there's a lot of that now, so there's still quite some way to go, but it's only being accelerated. I think I saw an interesting statistic that in recessions, advertising markets pull back a little bit, but what really happens underneath the scene is there's a big shift. So in like 2008, 2009, it would just mark the end of print advertising and everything went to digital display. And I think what we're seeing here is the shift from linear to CTV, and that's sort of really sort of what's happened.
Cool, thank you, Henry. Jim, how about yourself?
I think ad dollars go where consumers are. And I think that CTV is going to, it may not dominate in terms of dollars, but it's going to dominate in terms of mind share. And I think that the capabilities that it brings, the addressability that it brings, the measurement capabilities it has, at least on the impression side, and certainly there will be evolutions on outcomes, et cetera. But I think it's the dominant platform. I think that other platforms will be affected by it in a major way, whether they lose dollars or they increase their capabilities. But I think it's going to dominate the market. I think premium video dominates. And again, as I said, I think it'll dominate in the home. And I think premium video, which is its own version of OTT, will dominate out of home as well.
Cool. Thanks, Jim. Yeah, my personal sentiment is very similar in that from a product point of view, I think like planning tools are going to start flipping, where we're going to have like reach extension on linear from the pole position of CTV first, which will be really interesting because it's already kind of happening with spot buying on cable and all that kind of stuff. But that it'll be really interesting as that becomes more and more commoditized. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining us today. It's been an enlightening conversation. And looking forward to 2021.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Very much. Take care.
Thanks, Henry. Thanks, Chris.